We hope you enjoyed last week's April Fool's Day episode. This week, we're back with the whole episode. No jokes about it.
Hey, welcome back to Dad's Own Books. How's everybody doing out there?
I'm doing okay.
Good. So we are really, really excited about today because usually we, pick a book and we read it and we talk about it. But every now and then we have a celebrity, world famous author as a guest on our podcast. And today we are so excited to have Alan Katz as our author guest.
Wow.
Yay!
Yay, I'm glad to be here. Where am I?
I don't know. Where are you, actually?
I'm actually
Connecticut, Weston.
I'm in Connecticut. No, we raised the kids in Weston, and then the schools asked us to move, so we're up in Milford, Connecticut.
You're in Milton, Connecticut?
Milford.
Oh, Milford.
Yeah,
Okay.
Milton's the neighbor, but we live in Milford, right outside of New Haven.
I've been to Milton, Connecticut. And actually, I went to college in Western Massachusetts, not too far from you. Yeah. So
I can't believe that.
Isn't that amazing?
I can't either.
Not the Massachusetts part, but that you went to college.
Well, golly, Alan, thank you. So golly is an adverb indicated by ly. What?
I was writing to you in the emails, not David.
I understand. That explains it. I apologize. Well, then possibly you went to college, David, and possibly you visited him, Mike. I don't know.
It's all very possible. We're all about the possible. So,
Nice.
And I did just visit David. This is another week of firsts for us. The last guest we had on was our first non-Dan guest. The last episode we recorded was our first all together, he and I, talking about a book in the same room.
Oh, wow.
that's right.
This is our first non-Dan, non-Chris, first Emmy Award winning author. No?
I'm a 6-time Emmy loser, daytime Emmy loser. I've lost 6 times.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. First time we've had an Emmy nominated person on our show.
Which is cool because
I'll cut that out so that it doesn't make me look so stupid.
And Alan, in the hours of research you did on our show,
Yes.
you obviously know that Mike and I are both professional actors. We've been acting for decades. It's how we know each other. And I would be envious to be an Emmy loser because I've never been even invited to the show, nonetheless nominated.
We lost 5 of them were for the Rosie O'Donnell show because I wrote for that show for 5 years. And these days, the Daytime Emmys has a category for best daytime talk show writing because there's Kelly Clarkson, there's Jennifer Hudson, there's Sherry, there are a whole bunch of them. Kelly and her husband, Mark. But back when we were doing it, there was a special class of writing because there weren't enough talk shows. So one year we lost to Jeopardy. And I can understand because they write 175 shows. We were doing 175 shows, 1 hour of live variety entertainment every day. One year we lost to, are you sitting down? Yeah, you're sitting down.
Yes, we are.
We lost to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which frankly is Al Roker saying, there goes Snoopy, there goes Garfield. So that's
riveting writing.
When we wrote 175 live, the Friday show was taped on Thursday, but 175 live shows, and we lost to a 3-hour balloon Snoopy-a-thon. But that's okay. I got to wear the tux, and we dressed up, and we saw celebrities, and it was fun.
That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's half of the excitement of award shows is getting to wear something really cool that you don't normally get to wear.
Absolutely. I'm going home empty, so you don't have to carry it on the train. The 6th one I lost was for a Disney cartoon show called Raw Tunage, which was basically Saturday Night Live for kids, with a classic Disney character hosting an episode. And then there were segments, just like it would be the Coneheads, with Saturday Night Live.
Sketches.
Conehead sketches. And I wrote something called Totally Tasteless Video every week. And it was like Doggy Schnauzer, which was a parody of Doogie Howser. And it was a puppy doctor in a human hospital. And we lost to Batman because you can't beat Batman. You just
nobody beats Batman.
Who tries?
Not even Superman.
So that's been my career up until this very moment.
Wow. Well, wait a second. There's another part of your career besides all of that.
Besides the TV.
It might have something to do with the name of our podcast. And we have gotten, 5 minutes in before saying the word books.
books.
I love that.
I did a little bit of research, Alan, and I think you may have written a book or two.
A book or 52.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, and I figured 12 of them are good.
What was the last one? Because the last one that I read someplace said 51.
Well, I finished a 52nd one that's now being printed, so I'm counting.
Wow.
Are you some sort of Dan Gutman?
I'm some sort of Dan Gutman without the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
And well, there's a lot of differences between us. If we go through the differences between us, although he is a dear, dear, dear friend, and I'm hoping it's deer hunting season. No.
Well, we ranked Dan as one of our top 2 guests named Dan ever.
Well, I may change my name to Dan after this, but he is a dear friend. And for my birthday last year, my birthday was March 1st, a few weeks ago.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. For my birthday last year, in front of 250 people at the fabulous New Canaan Library in New Canaan, Connecticut, he presented me with my birthday gift. It was the day after my birthday. And he gave me a large roll of wrapping paper with a bow on it and said, "This is my gift to you so you can wrap my gift when it's my birthday." So on his birthday, his birthday, I got a roll of wrapping paper made at Staples that had his picture all over it. And I wrapped it in his wrapping paper. So seemed perfect. Awesome. And it's on him because I'm having dinner with him tomorrow night and he owes me a birthday gift. One year he gave me a harmonica shaped like a pickle. So I'm not expecting, expecting like, a MacBook Pro or anything like that. Well, I'll let you know.
But yeah, let us know. And this episode will drop in a couple, 3 weeks. So we'll make sure our audience knows what Dan gave you for your birthday this year.
You bet. I think we can go on record right now as saying probably nothing, but we'll see.
We'll see. We can fix that and post it.
And I already have one of these, so there's no reason. There's no reason to. I'm sorry. All your speakers.
No, I'm chickenophobic, and so that put me back about 3 or 4 weeks in therapy. No.
Oh no!
I was just going to ask. Is that the chicken from the cover?
It's the chicken from the cover.
Oh my God, that's awesome!
It's not the actual chicken from the cover.
Oh,
that's a stunt chicken.
Oh yeah.
And what's funny is when I'm at book festivals, like the upcoming Hudson Book Festival in Hudson, New York, or the Gaithersburg Festival in Maryland. Why don't I plug all those festivals? And I have this on the table next to the books. The kids want to buy this and leave this. So I may be in the wrong business. I should be in the rubber chicken business. Probably.
Well, should we talk about what's
books.
On the inside of some of your books?
Sure. I like that. I mentioned the Rosie O'Donnell show. And one night at dinner, my daughter Simone, who was in 3rd grade then, said, "Hey, Dad, you do all these funny songs for the Rosie show." And I was writing funny commercials. If you ever saw a commercial, this came after the Rosie show, ever saw a commercial with Megan Mullally from Will and Grace singing "Turn the Tub Around" about "I Can't Believe It's Not Butter." She sang and danced in a supermarket to the tune of "Turn the Beat Around," the Vicki Sue Robinson song. And she sang "Turn the Tub Around," talking about nutrition, that kind of thing. So I wrote that. My kids are more proud of that than any of the books or the TV work or anything like that. But at dinner one night, Simone looked at me and said, "Hey, Dad, can you pass the mashed potato?" No, what she said was, "Hey, Dad, how come you write all these songs for kids, for TV shows? Why don't you write some songs for kids?" And I said, "I can do that." And that became "Take Me Out of the Bathtub" and other silly dilly songs, which actually turns 25 in May.
What?
25 years of silly dilly songs. There it is.
Yeah, happy birthday next month.
It's been a joy. And now when I do school visits, teachers either say 2 things. They say, "I grew up on that book. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." Or they say, "I raised my kids on that book." And when I mention the Rosie O'Donnell show, I either hear, "I watched it every day," or "I've never heard of that." So I'm bridging a whole bunch of generations, I guess. But "Take Me Out of the Bathtub" led to "I'm Still Here in the Bathtub." And there are 9 silly dilly songbooks in all about manners, about potty training, about sports, about camp. There's a holiday book. And it's been a delight to write songs that kids are singing. And what happens is they make, there you go, Smelly Locker is school. "I'm Still Here in the Bathtub." Wow. Now I know where all the books are.
We're boosting the Cirque stats at the libraries in Chicagoland and North Texas.
Don't look on your bookshelf. They're not there.
Okay. What's thrilling to me, though, is that very often kids will either record their own videos of them singing, or a lot of schools take my holiday songbook, Where Do They Hide My Presents, and they do a family Christmas pageant that
That's
way.
cool.
And the big exciting news, my son is a musical theater performer. He just spent a year, there it is, Where Did They Hide My Presents?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
My son is a musical theater performer. He just spent a year playing Peter in the Pinkalicious musical off-Broadway.
Awesome.
And we have done the Silly Dilly musical. There are two versions. There's a concert version and there's a stage version with a whole book and a message of inclusion and all that. And it's just singing a ton of silly dilly songs. And I like that very, very much. And David is a tremendously talented performer. And
Well, thank you. I'm glad you did some research and checked out my work.
well, you had the name first, but no, he's a superstar. We could do a whole show about him because of the things he's done.
Alan, is David your son who's done the Pinkalicious? He played Peter?
He played Peter in Pinkalicious.
Okay.
And what was very cool was he would come out and do his big solo number about how much boys can love the color pink. Of course they can.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids in the audience would yell, "Where's Pinkalicious?" Because she was off stage.
Get him off stage! I want Pinkalicious!
But he did a great job. Very proud of that. And we played, I guess, about 40 performances of the Silly Dilly musical. And we may do a 25th anniversary Take Me Out of the Bathtub. Big production here, perhaps with celebrities.
I love it. Well, to circle back to Pinkalicious, we've already done an episode of Pinkalicious because it's one of my favorite series of books I've read to my girls.
Victoria is one of the most creative, one of the kindest, and one of the best people I know.
Cool. That is great to hear.
Yeah.
Next time you talk to her, tell her she can be our first female author guest who is not one of our daughters.
And not named Dan.
She is a superstar. I actually wrote a few episodes of the Pinkalicious TV show.
Oh, fun.
I did read that.
We knew that.
Peter.
But what I also wanted to say, Alan, is that I have always loved Peter in those books. He's hilarious. And in the first one, he's always looking like, hey, what is she doing? What about me? And spoiler alert, if you've not read Pinkalicious, I'll just say that Peter kind of has the last laugh in the book. So anyway, I love that your son played Peter. That's so cool.
Loved it. And in the cartoon that I wrote, there was a big battle of, because when you write something, there's a lot of editorial comment, especially on a cartoon show.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote a line where Pinkalicious and Peter are building a robot to do all their chores. And Pinkalicious says, "Hand me that doodad, please." And then when Dad walked in, Peter holds up the doodad and said, "What does this doodad do, Dad?" which I thought was a great line. And they said, "No, we have to call him Father. That we'll make it, what does this doodad do, Father?"
Oh,
and
my,
said,
really?
It's not the same rhythm. And
No.
they said, okay, how about, what is this? This was not Victoria. This was some network.
Yeah, the editorial.
Which I respect. Obviously, they make the shows great. And then they said, okay, we'll compromise. How about, what does this doodad do, Daddy? And I said, no, not really.
No.
I said, I'll write another line. And I wrote another line that I thought was equally comedically gifted.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, okay, I lost that line. And, there's always another joke, especially when you're writing for Rosie O'Donnell or Tony Danza. There's always, you don't like that one? Okay, here's another joke. And I'm watching the promo for the upcoming series launch of Pinkalicious, the cartoon series, Pinkalicious and Peter. And they say, watch funny moments like this. What does this doodad do, Dad? So it made the show.
Oh, it made the show, it made the trailer, it made everything.
And again, when I do school visits, I show it. The reason I show 30 seconds, and I say I show it because I'm proud of my work, and you should always be proud of your work. But the next thing I show is the script that says, here's who's in the scene, here's where they are, here's what they're doing, here's what they say. And you see, what does this doodad do, Dad? I say, I'm showing you that because when you hit a remote and the TV goes on and there's a cartoon, it took 2 years to get there. Before anybody says any words, before anybody draws any pictures, before there's music, before there's any semblance of a cartoon, it starts out right here, goes to a computer using the characters that have already been created, of course, and it becomes a script. And you don't see the script, but appreciate the words in your lives. And kids go, oh. And kids have come up to me afterwards and said, I'm going to write a cartoon script. So I love that.
That is so cool. Should we talk about one of your books?
Sure.
Can I tell a joke from one of your books?
I would love that.
What do you call an old snowman?
Are you asking
Anyone?
me?
Bueller. Anyone?
Bueller? I don't get it. Why would you call it Bueller?
Water.
H2. Oh,
There you go.
So
that was just something I
That's
made sense
from,
with the.
that's
It
from
is
this,
from that, in fact.
right? And it's not from this book, which came out this past December. No, those are sponges. And I just finished the 52nd book that I was talking about. Is a school joke book.
And it's not this
one.
one either.
No,
From
put
the
that one
jovial
down.
Bob Stein.
Put that one down.
Jovial Bob Stein. That's
I have to say one thing though. In the joke book,
one thing. But wait, Alan, you've already said one thing.
well, can I erase that one thing and say this one thing?
Yeah, say your
Okay.
one. Now, go
Can I
ahead.
say
And
when kids
Q
say to me,
Alan,
can I ask
Number 7, Q Alan, go.
We're doing the same thing when kids raise their hand and say, "Can I ask 2 questions?" I say, "Yeah, but you have to ask the second one first," and it totally throws them off.
You're out of order.
In the books and in life and in my school presentation, I give them one rule that I live by, and I mean this quite seriously. I love to make people laugh. It's a weird job because I'm not an architect, I'm not a dentist, I'm not a teacher, a librarian, a scientist. My job is to be as funny as I can be. The funnier I am, the more successful I am. But I will never make a joke at anybody else's expense. I will never make a joke that hurts anybody's feelings. And there's 2 pages in this book, and there's some material in this book that says, being funny feels really good. I hope you'll laugh a lot, but being kind comes, more importantly, comes all the time. And the kids get it. And, you know, if I'm out there spreading a message of humor, hopefully when kids read my books, they laugh their heads off, then they put their heads back on and they write something funny. My whole message is, if I can do it, you can do it. I was in a school in outside of Pittsburgh last week, and I said, I use the same 24 letters of the alphabet that you use. And they were like, oh, yeah. Nobody said a 26. We have 26. But
I see what you
I love that. I love the fact that, you know, we'll talk about my nose book in a minute, I guess. But I did a book. Well, I'll talk about it now because I have the microphone right now. I did a book called Got Your Nose.
I was trying to find that to read it, and I could not find it because I was looking at the
you couldn't
library
read
and
it.
I was out of town. So
Yeah, it's Grandpa plays Got Your Nose with his granddaughter. He puts it in his pocket, and he actually does take her nose, and they have to chase it around town. And in the park, it was illustrated by Alex Will, and I always have to give a nod to the incredible, incredible illustrators. But in the park, this woman says, look, there's a girl with no nose. And the other one says, funny, I just saw a nose with no girl. It was a beautiful nose, too. If I could pick any nose, I'd certainly pick that one. And it's a romp, and they chase, and at the end, they get the nose back, and it goes back in her face.
Don't, spoiler alert. No.
And well, wait for the movie. And Grandpa says, I'm sorry I did that. And Becky says, oh, Grandpa, I had fun. And he says, I had fun, too. She says, in that case, got your ear, and the ear runs away. And kids raise their hand and say, you should do a book with Alex Willing called Got Your Ear. And I say, no, you should do a book called Got Your Ear. And you know what? They're doing it. Kids are sending me books. Because when I visit a school, I always say, there's going to be a kid or 2 or 12 who haven't been writing. And all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, I can do it too. If they do it, let me know and I'll send them a note. I do it all the time. And kids are writing their own book called Got Your Ear, in which the ear goes to buy earrings. It goes to a concert. It goes to the ear doctor. I've gotten Got Your Elbow. I've gotten Got Your Head, which is funny because in Got Your Head, when the boy illustrated it, there's no head. And he's on the phone calling the police to say, have you seen my head? Which begs the question, wouldn't the head have the part that talks into the phone?
Or that sees things. Yeah.
Right. But that's okay, because if my creativity unleashes theirs and gives them a way to say, I mean, not everything is silly. You know, I talk about my poetry book, Oops, 100 poems illustrated by Ed Koren. I like writing funny rhyming poems. Not all poems rhyme. Not all poems are funny. And I share a poem in the book that is actually the first poem in the book. And I say I had a blank notebook and I had to write 100 poems. And when you're looking at a blank piece of paper, you say, what am I going to write about? Well, I looked out the window, true story. And I said to my wife at the kitchen table, wow, the wind is blowing quite a breeze. And she said, yeah, it's a windy day. We get those. And I said, let me write that down. Let me see what that could be. And I wrote down the wind is blowing quite a breeze. If it hadn't turned into a poem, you cross it out or you erase it. Well, I said, let me see. The wind is blowing quite a breeze. It's so cold that I might freeze. And I'm starting a winter poem. Well, I turned this on to, onto the kids. And kids who weren't thinking about writing poetry, kids who aren't thinking about being funny. I say, okay, everybody, 300 people here, Anybody have an idea for a second line for the poem? It could rhyme with breeze. It doesn't have to. And I get, the wind is blowing quite a breeze. I'd really like a piece of cheese. The wind is blowing quite a breeze. I think the pollen will make me sneeze.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, I got the wind is blowing quite a breeze. I'm going back in the house. End of poem.
Mic drop.
But it's a very short poem.
But it unlocked something. Somebody said at school last week, I got 2 poems that I'd never heard before. The wind is blowing quite a breeze. I think we ought to spray Febreze. Love that.
Ooh, nice.
And I got, the wind is blowing quite a breeze. I'm watching a great pass by the quarterback, Drew Brees. Great. So I finished the poem and I show them how I finished it. I must have gotten, no exaggeration, 300 poems mailed to me by teachers who say, after you left, kids wrote this. Now, here's how I finished the poem, because I like to be silly. The wind is blowing quite a breeze. The wind is blowing on my knees. The wind is blowing its spring dance. It tells me I forgot my pants. And it was illustrated by Ed Korn. And you want to hear a big scoop?
We want to hear everything.
My wife, Rose, is a Pulitzer-nominated, very serious journalist. She has written award-winning stories. She's also a far better poet than I am. She's an incredible poet. She writes very thoughtful, serious, deep-feeling poems. We just finished a book that's being illustrated right now. It'll be out next summer, 2027, called Two Sides to Everything. We took 40 kid-friendly topics. She wrote a serious, thoughtful poem about it, and I wrote kind of a funny, silly rhyming poem about the same topic. And at the end of the book, we say, okay, here's 5 poems by Rose. They're serious. I tell them how to be funny, and they are invited to write their own funny poems, and vice versa. I put up 5 funny poems. Hopefully they'll write a serious, thoughtful poem. Because there are more than 2 ways to look at things.
Mm-hmm. That's a really cool lesson.
Deeply moved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm always
What does
deeply moved.
mean? Yes. So I want to talk about, Mike, do you want to start talking about a book, or should I?
Well, there was actually a quote from one of the books, the very beginning of the book, because it ties into what you were just saying. Chapter 1 of book 3 of SOS. It's finally time to yell and shriek, because there's no school for 1 whole week.
Mm-hmm.
I love when you can do something at the very beginning that just grabs you right away. And I love that. Like,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. The SOS books are 5 books in a series of a superhero substitute teacher who has to save the world in each book from a devious, scheming classroom ferret. And she works with her son and her son's best friend, Morgan. And together they fight crime using all kinds of things that James Bond never thought of. And it's just goofy fun.
Yeah.
And again, kids are writing their own. I got a letter from an entire class saying, here are some plots for the next SOS books. How much do I love that anything I created makes kids say, I have an idea. I love that. I love seeing the kids write. Not that I need the competition, but I love seeing seeing kids turn a blank piece of paper into something that only they can write.
Kids, don't take that to your publisher, because, he has a mortgage to pay, or maybe 3 mortgages to pay, whatever his situation is. And the book I was going to talk about is the SOS book, Food Fight. And I have to be honest, when I read it, I didn't know it was part of a series.
Okay, I see.
Which is always a good sign of a book in a series. The book can stand alone. I didn't read it going, what am I missing? But I just want to show you one of my favorite spreads in the book. The writing is phenomenal. And I just want to, for those of you who are only listening, go check out our YouTube video now, because the writing in this spread right here, just the words that you wrote are just absolutely phenomenal.
Well, I have to tell you, the illustrator of this book, because I usually don't meet the illustrators of the book I work with. I worked with David Catro on 11 books, and we've met twice. Alex Will and I have happened to be fortunate enough to meet. He's in Chicago, actually.
Alex is?
Yep.
When I visit my son Nathan, we've met a couple of times. But I have to tell you, Alex Lopez, who did the art for the 5 SOS books, lives in Madrid, Spain. Mm-hmm. We're Facebook friends. We've chatted a few times, but really, he does what he does so brilliantly. I say that about every illustrator. They do what they do best. I do what I do best. And the editors at the book company, in this case, David Linker at HarperCollins, paired us up and said, this is going to be a good team. And I love that. How much do I love that I sit here and write on a piece of paper, or this is my desk, by the way. This is where I do most of my work. And I think, boy, this will probably be a good picture book or chapter book or whatever. And then the illustrator brings it to life. I am so grateful for that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up for two reasons. When I read the book, I sent a picture to my brother-in-law, Alex Lopez.
Oh, funny.
Who's an attorney in Corpus Christi. And I said, I didn't know you did this.
That's
and that began a fun series of texts. But what I love about this book, all joking aside, the writing is hilarious.
Thank
and the
you.
characters are fun, and I loved it. But the visuals in this book, I mean, Alex Lopez's style, the chapter headings are very like pow. It reminds me of the pow and the bam in the Batman TV show from the 60s. And there are some spreads like the one I just showed you that are completely drawings. He does a great job of capturing your characters and the spirit of your story.
He is truly amazing.
Let me ask you a question. There was that spread that was all picture. Here's one that is half pictures and half words. There are others where, it's pictures in different. Was it the editor that chose how to do this? Who chose how to do the layout and design of your books?
The layout is clearly happening between the editor and the art director.
Okay.
Probably in tandem with Alex.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few times in my many books where I've said I need it to be a picture of a kid in the coat closet or whatever. Most of the time I say, do what you do because you're incredible. But I had very little say in anything graphic in that book. But I'm so glad to hear you say that, because Alex Lopez and Alex Willen and pretty much any illustrator named Alex is they're just phenomenal at what they do. And it really, it takes something that's this good and makes it, you don't even see my hands on the screen.
So with that in mind, have you ever gotten the book back and looked at the pictures that they've done and thought, like, have you ever thought, oh, this would be so much better if this word was changed or like flowed a little better?
2 or 3 times, and one in our book Zulaween that I did recently with Stephanie Labaris. There's a very big payoff at the end. There's a very big, hilarious revealed joke, or I'm calling it hilarious, but revealed joke at the end. And it wasn't clear to me. It wasn't so clear that every kid would get that joke. So I have asked for that. There was a time, by the way, and I'm still here in the bathtub. David, you have that book?
We both do.
Who held up that book?
Well, you mean specifically?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Still,
Can you turn to a page where there's a kid eating a fish sandwich, rather?
Okay.
See who wins. It's near the back.
Near the back. Thank you. Because there's so many. Oh, wow. The illustrations in this book are so awesome.
They're remarkable. David is remarkable.
Ah, there it is. A fish sandwich with the Hershey's.
Oh, I wrote a song about a kid eating a chicken sandwich, and it said in the lyrics, chicken parm. And in his sketches, because David Catro, in fact, all illustrators, of course, sketch out the book first.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I would ever say, don't do that. That's wrong. That's not what I meant. But it said chicken sandwich, and he drew a chicken on a bun. If you'd hold up that illustration, when I got the color, it's a big fish. And I said, excuse me, it says chicken. And the editor said, who was a remarkable editor, Emma Dryden, said, can you change the words? He drew a fish. He felt like drawing a fish. Certainly fine, as long as it matches. So I changed chicken parm to catfish parm because I needed that number of syllables. All good. It works in every way, except at school visits. Sometimes kids will raise their hand and say, do you really eat catfish parm? Like, no, I need it around. But as long as it matches, occasionally I'll put an illustration note that says this joke will be better if, but most of the time I salute the illustrators so deeply for the work they do.
Well, as you said earlier, each of you are outsourcing to people to do what they do better, and it elevates. You said it elevates the book.
It surprises kids when I say, I'm in Connecticut. David lives in Ohio. We're never together. See, I always thought I'd be sitting here and the illustrator would be sitting here or maybe over here, and we'd work together. And it's so not the case.
Well,
I don't think I've ever worked with an illustrator who lives within 500 miles.
Well, we discovered that with Dan Gutman. He's met Jim Payot once. And it was because Dan was on a book tour or some trip in Arizona, which is where I believe Jim lives.
Yep.
And you read these books and you're right, even as adults, well, these guys must be sitting in this room having a blast together. And
Absolutely.
they've never, ever, ever done that.
Absolutely. And listen, I have wonderful illustrator friends who I get together with all the time, who I'd love to work with, but we've never done books together. I did a series called Ricky Vargas, the Funniest Kid in the World. There were 2 books for Scholastic. Stacy Curtis, it's a gentleman named Stacy Curtis, who also lives in the Chicago area. Oh. I would love to do another book with him. He is so talented, so creative, so much fun to work with, but we just haven't hit upon the thing to work on together.
Well, Ricky Vargas 3. Where's that?
It's not.
I did really enjoy his illustrations in there.
It's not my decision this year. That's one book where it says Ricky is funny all the time, and it says Ricky is funny in gym, and the coach says, "I told you to put on gym clothes," and Ricky is behind the bleachers, and he says, "Oh, I thought you said put on Jim's clothes," and Jim is Jim is standing there with no clothes.
Yeah,
in a towel.
To play up the joke, Stacy had to know my intention. Now he drew it 42 times better than I would have imagined it, but without that, it made no sense. Without saying, there's a kid who's missing his clothes because Ricky was so funny that he took them.
Can I circle back again to the SOS Food Fight book?
Geez.
I'm holding it up for those of you who are just listening. At the bottom, on the last page of each chapter, there is a series of boxes, and it tells you what chapter that was.
Exactly. You can check off to show your progress within reading it. Yeah.
I love that. And on this one, it says, way to go. You've read 3,374 words. Congratulations. Was this graphic your idea? Was it Alex's idea, publisher? Tell me about that.
I believe it was the editor's idea, David Linker. But after he said, let's put that grid at the bottom, I then said, okay, let me write some things in the way to go messages.
So that's collaboration. That's yes and.
Total collaboration in every way. And, you know, especially with David, because I did Got Your Nose with him, I did the book that I see behind Mike, the Passover book, the Mysterious Missing Matzah. We did Zuluine together in the 5 SOS books. It's just a great collaboration. He'll say to me, you know what? I like the ending, but I think you need something else. Well, as a writer, anybody who says to you, get more creative, you know, anybody as a kid, anybody who says to you, revise that, do a little better job, take another look at what you wrote. I always feel like, wow, let me add it. Let's do that. Let's make it better.
Love it.
David and I collaborate on this show. And if I was doing it by myself, it would not be the same. We each bring a different thing to it. So,
absolutely,
you know, you've got to be willing to hear criticism and suggestions that will help develop things.
Right. I mean, the ending of Got Your Nose, where Grandpa says, I'm sorry, and Becky says, got your ear, was not in the original draft.
Love it.
And that was David Linker saying, it kind of skids to an end. She gets her nose back. I love you, Grandpa. Can we do better than that? And the answer, clearly in the eyes of readers, is we did do better than that. And I love that he challenged me to do that.
Well, what I love, Alan, is that you know, I didn't know where you were going when you said what your action was going to be about them saying, "Can you change the ending?" Because there are probably some authors who are like, "No, my work is pristine." But it sounds like you have the mindset of an improviser of yes and let's listen, let's collaborate. How can it heighten?
That's the way, whether it's books or film or podcast or anything. Why would you possibly say it's perfect, I'm not touching it? In fact, I did 2 chapter books about my twins, David and Nathan. You heard about my son, David, and you inadvertently heard about my son, Nathan. But when they were babies, they drove babysitters crazy. And I wrote 2 chapter books called The Day the Mustache Took Over and The Day the Mustache Came Back. I finished it. I was waiting for printed copies. I would wake up in the morning saying, oh boy, the printed copies are going to come today. I bet they're going to come today. Instead, I got an email with the entire manuscript with comment boxes. There were literally 300 comments from the editor saying, I know you thought you were done, but take another look. And my first thought was, are you kidding me? I'm waiting for the book. Well, I looked at it, and like on page 18, Nathan is bouncing a ball. And I said, what's wrong with that? And the note said, on page 17, somebody took the ball away from him. Well, what a catch. If you were reading that book and you said, he doesn't have the ball anymore, he lost it on the page before, revising is a way to make it better, make it clearer, make it smarter. I don't usually mess with punctuation. I don't usually miss punctuation. I don't usually misspell things, but there are logic. I mean, she had a note that said, David always cleans his room. On this page, you have him walking into his messy room. Makes no sense.
It's like you had a continuity editor.
Yeah.
A continuity, a common sense editor. You know, I did the school joke book, hundreds of jokes, hundreds of poems and stories and all that. The editor looked at it and said, there's a joke very much like this one on page 106, on page 4. Wow, I missed that. It was a very similar joke. You know, somebody says, how is that book on gravity? And the other person says, I couldn't put it down. You know, that kind of thing. And then there was a joke, how's the book on glue? You know, I couldn't put it down, or something like that.
It stuck with me.
It stuck with me, whatever it was. Yeah.
Improv.
And the answer is, anybody who looks at your work and says, go back, take another look. Famous story in our family. My son David was probably in 2nd or 3rd grade. We're big New York Mets fans. And I saw him writing something about the Met game we had been to the day before. And it was 100 words. And I saw him counting 97, 98, 99, 100. I'm done. I said, let me see. He said, what? It's 100 words. I said,
Yep.
That's
I
only
remember doing that.
And I looked at the first line. It said, my dad and I walked from the car. And I said, from? He goes, now I only have 99. I said, your teacher's not going to count whether it's 99 or 100. She's going to look at the story. Well, the story was about the parking lot. He didn't mention how green the grass was. He didn't mention that we saw a 3-run homer to win the game in extra innings. He didn't mention he got autographs. He didn't mention he got a foul ball. I said, you know what? You didn't write about the Met game. You wrote about the parking lot. And he rewrote it. And it was a much better story. You know, just because you finish something doesn't mean you're done with it.
I love it. Now that you mentioned the day the mustache took over with David and Nathan, that's another one of your books that I read. And without you paying me to say this, I loved. And there's another spread that I loved, and this one's not a joke, because for those of you listening, this spread is entirely words, and I loved it. And here's what I loved about this spread. You talk about they were trying to break a record. So they broke the state record and a lamp, 2 picture frames, and a wicker thing. That sentence really stood out to me because, first of all, there's the pun of they broke a record and the other things in the house that they broke.
Thank you.
But in writing and in lots of things, there's a thing called the rule of 3, where if you have a series of things, the first 2 are normal or set up, and the third is a punchline. And you said a lamp, 2 picture frames, and a wicker thing. And that appealed to me because I was picturing a lamp and 2 picture frames. And then there's a wicker thing because it's made of wicker, but you don't necessarily know, is that a chair?
Sure.
Is that a chaise lounge? What do you call that? And that really made me laugh.
I appreciate that.
And especially knowing your background writing for Rosie and other things that you've done, I know you know the rule of 3, but also in this book, there's some times where you break the rule. There's a rule of 5. There's even a rule of 7. So when you write, do you write with those rules in mind, or do you sort of listen to how it sounds? I'm thinking combination of both.
I think the rules are part of me, and I understand the construct of a joke and the setup with a payoff. And, you know, there are times where, like, you're not supposed to repeat a punchline. You don't do a joke on a joke.
Yeah.
But, hey, I'm the one steering the keyboard. And if it's going to make you laugh, you know, nonsense is only funny if you get the context and you get the reason that it's nonsense. You know, I did some books that we haven't mentioned. Can I hold the books we haven't mentioned?
Absolutely.
Oh, please.
You've seen the books Who Was. Well, that one too, but I want to get to these first if you don't mind. Biographies. You've seen the books Who Was.
Yep.
Who was William Shakespeare? Who was Beethoven? There are hundreds of them. They are really wonderful books. Well, I basically came up with the idea of doing Who Wasn't. So they're called liographies, the absolutely untrue, totally made up, 100% fake life stories of Babe Ruth, Amelia Earhart, and Thomas Edison. They are about 70 pages, and the whole book, except for the end, is total nonsense. Babe Ruth is still a ball player. Amelia Earhart's still an aviator. Thomas Edison is still an inventor. But I wrote it to make you laugh. It's probably my attempt at the kind of weird school humor that I admire so much in Dan.
Who's also done biographies, by the way.
He's done biographies too, but he's done serious biographies.
Yeah, true ones.
Biographies with Did You Know facts and all that, which I admire tremendously. Well, in my version, Babe Ruth visits kids in the hospital, and he was such an interesting man that he would often do unnecessary surgery on the kids, removing a kidney or a spleen for absolutely no reason. And he was such a generous man that he would pay a real doctor to put it back. And a reporter once said, Babe, isn't it hard removing a kidney or a spleen without any medical training? And Babe said, hitting a fastball is hard. Removing a kidney is a piece of cake. And for good measure, he removed the reporter's kidney and had a piece of cake.
Piece of cake.
If you're along with me with the ride, there's no threes in there. There's really no puns. It's just I'm playing with your logic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thomas Edison, the way he invented Morse code was he was in a diner and he called milk for whatever reason. He was such a genius. He called milk scode, SCODE. And when his glass was empty and he wanted a refill, he would tap it on the table and say, Morse code, Morse code. And the way he was tapping sent a message. And he said, wait a minute, I think I just invented something. Did that happen? Of course not. Is it plausible within your frame of knowledge? Absolutely. And here's what's happening. I do writers' workshops with kids as part of my school visit sometimes. All they want to do is write a biography. I've written biographies with kids where they say, President Taylor Swift declared that everybody had to move to the moon. And it's just nonsense. I'm not saying, by the way, it's not like I'm saying 1 + 1 is 3, which is wrong. I'm saying 1 + 1 is 17,412,006. I'm exaggerating because humor can come from exaggeration. I clearly say, don't believe a word of this. And the last chapter of the book is the real story of Babe Ruth, Amelia Earhart, or Thomas Edison. So you don't walk away thinking what I was telling you was the truth.
Well, to segue back, in The Day the Mustache Took Over, I absolutely loved it. And what you were just saying about telling all these absolutely absurd, not true things, Martin, the owner of the mustache, does that all the time in this book.
All the time.
And it's very funny.
And my barometer, I mean, I have 4 incredible kids. As I said, my wife is a gifted writer. I run everything by them and I see their reaction. They are my test audience. But I figure if it makes me laugh and I have the mind of a 4-year-old, then hopefully it'll make kids laugh. My number one question is, will kids get it? And that's the challenge in writing anything, is saying, will kids understand the parallel? Would they understand what I'm exaggerating? You held up the book, which you were very kind to do, Really Stupid Stories for Really Smart Kids, which literally just went out of print. And I think I'm going to be bringing it back in print. It's 20 short stories. For kids who say, I don't want to read a book. Well, for kids who don't want to read a book, read 1 short story a night for 20 nights, 2 short stories a night for 10 nights, and you do the math from there. But they're short, 3 to 6 to 7 page stories that have some wonderful illustrations by Gary Bowler. And they're just silly. They're just go to bed happy, sit on the school bus and laugh.
Should I read the first story, David?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. It's a good thing you're reading this book, because if you don't read this book all the way through to the end, your head might fall off, which is exactly what happened to Vincent Newman. Vincent said, no way am I going to read that book. And then, plop, his head fell off and rolled into a field where some dogs played soccer with it. Final score was Bulldogs 7, Mutts 5. Close game. Like, I love...
I'm sorry.
I love how absurd, like, this whole thing is. And then, close game.
It's just silliness. And their kids, what I do when I visit schools is, as the kids are coming in, I engage the front row. I say, what are you reading? And I hear Dogman, and I hear Wimpy Kid, and I hear Dan's books, and, quite a few wonderful books out there, a wonderful series. But so often kids say, I don't read. It's like, well, you must read something. Like, no, I do everything I can to not read. And I say, well, you know what? You haven't found the right book yet. And I am not saying only read funny books. I'm not saying only be silly all the time. But if you can look at this book and say, well, that made me laugh. Are there other books out there that'll make me laugh? We got you in the library. Once you're in the library looking for more Dan Gutman books, and there are like 106 My Weird School books, and his other books are phenomenal.
106 million.
It's true.
He just published 3 more because we said his name.
Yeah.
That's how he rolls.
Yeah.
That's how he rolls.
That's right. We actually did at a great bookstore, Books of Wonder in New York. We did a celebration for the 100th publication of the 100th book, and then we did a joke off, which was just about the most fun I've ever had. But if you like one My Weird School book, look, there's a whole library.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like My Weird School, maybe you'll pick up Liography. And if you pick up Liography and you like it, maybe you go read Big Nate. And, you know, and then maybe you graduate to books that aren't so funny. And, you know, if you start writing funny poetry, maybe you'll say, well, I have some other thoughts that don't rhyme or that aren't funny. And that's okay. By the way, you talked about breaking rules. One of the things I do in my poetry books, which nobody's ever really scolded me for, is I make up words.
How dare you?
You know,
I do that all the time. I'm not the only one.
I wish
I wanted to be the first person to scold you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wish I could afford in a really good accordion, things like that.
I love it.
That you know what I'm talking about. You're not going to run to a dictionary and say, what's accordion? You know, it's just, you know.
Morse code.
Morse code. Morse code. See, I laughed for a week.
More scolding?
I laughed for a week at Morse code. I just did.
That's hilarious.
It just really made me laugh. Is it factually correct? Of course not. Am I trying to teach you anything? No. But if you read these books and you've laughed yourself silly, my work is done. And then go find something else that'll make you easily as engaged or hysterical.
I think it's really interesting. I had not thought of this aspect of it, but that you brought up, like the sequels and the series of books. I always think the beginning of the book like grabs you and makes you want to finish it. But I and just because I hadn't actually thought of it out loud or in my head about how cool it is that the series does that to keep you going.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Do I know anybody who's read all 106 My Weird School books? No, but they're out there. My son Nathan, when there were 35 and he was growing up, he's now 25, he read about 35 of them. I met Dan Gutman. True story. I met Dan Gutman because we were both supposed to be at the Texas Literary Association Conference, TLA. And when I got the invitation, Nathan looked at it and said, you got to go. You got to meet Dan Gutman. You have to meet Dan Gutman. This was easily 15, 16 years ago. The night before I was flying to Texas, we had a massive car accident. Fortunately, nobody was seriously injured, but a speeding police car that didn't have its siren on flipped us. And we crawled out the windshield. We all could have easily been seriously injured or killed. I still got on the plane to go meet Dan Gutman. And I was in such pain on that flight. I still feel the pain. And I met Dan Gutman. He's become such a friend.
But you do anything for your kids.
Do anything for the kids. But Nathan had read all 35. I brought back the 36th signed. He still has it. Dan's actually dedicated a book to Nathan. I do have to show you one thing talking about breaking the rules. My kids, everybody's kids, bring home workbooks that say, if David has 2 buttons and Mike has 2 buttons, how many buttons do they have? My kids personally couldn't stand them, didn't want any part of them, and wouldn't do them. And I said, okay, well, you don't want to count buttons, you don't want to count flowers. But Andrew, if Nathan makes 2 dirty diapers and David makes 2 dirty diapers in a day, how many dirty diapers in the week? And he said, 28. I said, I think I'm onto something. And I did 2 books called Stinky Thinking and Stinky Thinking 2. This is illustrated.
What about That Stinks?
Well, that's not the book.
I know, but it still stinks.
By Lori Keller, who is fantastic. You want to talk about illustrators? Arnie the Donut. And she's done so many phenomenal books, Potato Pants. And it's workbook. It's a workbook. But it's things like all the kids in the Ball and Gratz nursery school have diaper rash. Find the twins. So you have to figure out which of the 2 butts did the dots match.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I played Jeopardy. It's questions like, It's the number of toilets needed if all the Supreme Court justices have to make duty at the same time. Obviously, I'm asking you, how many Supreme Court justices are there? But are you going to answer that question? No. Are you going to answer it with stuff come out of your nose because you're laughing so hard? I think you will.
Yeah, if it's a poop joke, you'll answer the question.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, I play, because it was popular then. These were a number of years ago. Here's double Jeopardy. But we also play Who Wants to Be a Booger, where you can win 1 million boogers. And it's fart jokes. And it's, and I don't apologize for any of it, because parents have said to me, I didn't want to buy the book. And then we drove from New York to Boston. And for 3 hours, all I heard was my kid laughing like crazy. And they solved 100 brain teaser, science, math, logic questions. Again, my work is done. If I can get your kid to laugh, enjoy reading, and then move on to something better.
Alan, can I correct you on something?
No.
Gosh, Mike, do you have anything? Yeah. So you said fart, and this is a family show, so we don't like to say fart.
We
We
like
don't
to
want
gas.
people to hear us saying fart. But as you may remember, on page 63 of the Food Fight SOS book, as Mike just said, Sydney, this is I'm going to read an entire paragraph. Are you ready?
Please do.
Sydney let out a large burst of gas. And I thought that was
That's
hilarious.
a whole paragraph?
That's a whole paragraph.
Wow.
That's beginning, middle, and end. There's the whole story structure, the denouement,
There's really no fart humor in there except a little bit of that. I got to tell you, Dan Gutman on Facebook a couple of weeks ago held up a picture of this book because we were signing together Books of Wonder.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't believe Allan Katz used the S word on the cover of his book.
Stories?
And I said, what's wrong with stories? And then
I was going to say smart.
and smart. Right. But you know what? I'm not calling anyone else stupid. I'm saying the stories have a certain level of intelligence. I mean, you heard the one that Mike was kind enough to read about your head falling off. Will your head fall off? Of course not. I've actually thought of turning that story into a picture book, by the way, where it keeps saying throughout that story, don't worry about it. You're going to read the book the whole way through. Your head will not fall off. And when you get to the last page, it's missing.
Okay, Alan, speaking of the last page, I have to admit, I actually lied to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
He does this quite often.
I did not read. I did read. I did not finish SOS Food Fight.
Well, then I've read it, and you have a lot to look forward to.
Okay, good. But don't spoil the end.
No.
Because
Would you like to read it?
Yeah, I've read very far. And we have, since you said you have until, I think, what did you say, next Thursday?
I have till a week from Thursday.
Sweet.
Okay, excellent. So I have time to finish the book.
Yeah.
But I have to get ready. You'll just hold on one second.
This can't be good.
No.
Your instincts are right. Hold on one second, gentlemen. I'll be right back. Don't go away.
Okay, Mike, it's our show now.
It's our show now.
Yeah.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, we didn't.
Never mind.
What do we got?
I can't find the prop I was going to use.
I can't work like this.
I know.
Props. Hey, props.
Props.
Anyway, let me just do this. Alan, the reason why I didn't finish the book is because
there was a word you couldn't spell. What?
Yes. I don't know if it was the or no.
One of the words I couldn't smell.
When I was a kid, I would read books in the summer, and I would stay up so late because I couldn't put them down. And I got in this habit of throwing a book when I was done reading it. To this day, I don't know why, but it's a habit that I like. So if you've not read this book, if you've not read SOS Society of Substitutes Food Fight, close your ears. The end for now.
Hilarious.
I finished it.
Absolutely hilarious.
But I also have to show you something. Can you see what's on my floor there?
I can.
What are those?
Puzzle?
Crayons.
They're crayons.
Mike and I, the book that we covered when we were here together in my house in the Dallas-Fort Worth area was the day the crayons quit.
Sure.
And I dumped an entire box of crayons on my head, and I forgot to clean up today to record with you. And I apologize for the mess. But the good news is I discovered that, and if y'all talk, I'm not going to hear you for a second.
Okay.
What I can
we should talk a lot.
He's my favorite person
I can
ever.
clean up the crayons in my office, and I'm the first person probably ever to rake inside. Okay, we're clean.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. I wondered what it was back there, but I figured, it could be dinner. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I like wax. Wax is fun to eat.
Fun.
Did you know that crayons are made from a pig fat?
No.
I didn't either, but then I do research on things every once in a while. And because we were reading a book about crayons, I don't know how I ended up looking up what crayons are made of.
Very funny.
But everybody was like, oh, like maybe that's why I like the smell of them so much.
Sure.
Smells like bacon. I don't know.
That's
I don't eat bacon. But
since our 4 kids are all out in the world doing professional, wonderful things, we don't have crayons in the house anymore. So
I'm keeping mine forever. I love the smell of crayons. I just love
Nice.
crayons.
we'll bring you some.
nice.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, this is a moment actually where we might we have some questions from our studio audience.
Oh, great.
Yeah, hold on one second. Sarah Patrick, come here.
Yeah. Hi,
Okay,
Sarah.
Sarah. Yeah. So, Sarah, this is Alan.
Hi, Sarah.
This is my daughter, Sarah. So here in Texas right now, we're on spring break.
I see. What grade are you in?
Oh, wait, time out. Y'all
Everyone's like,
talk
Sarah,
amongst...
why aren't you?
Talk to me, please.
Okay, go ahead. Ask that question
What grade
again,
are you
Alan.
in, Sarah? 7th. Well, I promise you, if you read any of my books that your dad has on his desk, you will immediately go to 11th grade. You can skip 4 grades when you finish an Allan Katz book.
Okay.
True
No,
dat.
Not really.
Okay, you have a question for him, correct?
Yeah.
What's your question?
Great.
Do you know anything about Allan Katz?
Do I know anything about Allan Katz? I will tell you that Allan Katz is a tremendously wonderful middle grade and upper middle grade writer. He is extraordinary. And my kids loved his books. And everywhere I visit, people are talking about him. But I am Allan, Katz. He's got a GR where I have a K. At least 5 times a year, I get invited to schools, either on World Read Aloud Day or for school visits. And they go, we would be so honored if you'd spend time with us or if you'd come to our school. And I'd say, yes, I'll be glad to. And then they write to the whole school. That teacher or principal or PTA person says, I got him. I got Allan Katz. And I write back and they CC me. They copy me. And I say, just to be clear, unless you've reached out to Allan Katz, also, you don't have Allan Katz, you have Allan Katz. It happened 2 weeks ago. And I wrote and said, you sent me a Zoom link and it says Alan G, rather. And I said, I'm not Alan G, I'm Alan K. And she wrote back, I don't know who you are. Good luck to you. And I said, just to be clear then, I won't be seeing you at 10:20 on Tuesday. And she said, what do you write? And I said, I write funny books for kids. I've written 50 books. I gave my whole credentials. And she wrote back, you'll do.
You'll do?
And I said, I have to be honest. I will visit with any kids anytime. I will travel anywhere. I love speaking to kids. But if you've been preparing your kids to meet Allan Katz and they have read his incredible novels, you don't want them to hear me sing Stinky, Stinky Diaper Change. And she said, I guess you're right. Skip it. Happens all the time. I get introduced at conferences as Allan Katz. It just happens. And he friended me and said, what's happening? And I said, I don't know. We're clearly different people. He's got a big beard. Somebody sent me a picture of him holding up my book, Got Your Nose, which I thought was a whole bunch of worlds colliding. But I couldn't think more of him, but I am not him. So have you ever read a book by him, Sarah?
How did you know about him? Tell us. I forgot.
Because my friends read about him, but I haven't.
Can't hear you.
My friends read about him.
Your friends? He's great.
Okay.
He is absolutely great. But he's for people who are done with my books, who have, not that you should be ever be done with picture books, because picture books will make you smarter, make you laugh. I mean, sometimes I visit with 5th graders and I go, really? Picture books? And I say, you know what? Look at the creativity. Look at the storytelling. Look at the artistry. And they go, oh, yeah, hey, yeah. So, never lose your love of picture books. But,
Absolutely.
certainly graphic novels and books like Allan Katz's, and Peter Larangis is an awesome author who tends to most of the time scale a little older than me. Spend time with their books too. But do not confuse me with Allan Katz.
Well, Alan, I if I am able to invite you here, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, We have some great bookstores, Talking Animals books in Grapevine, and a House with Books here in Keller. And the Keller Public Library and Grapevine Public Libraries are awesome libraries where my kids have grown up reading books. I will never, ever call you Alan Katz. I promise.
However, I did not make a promise at the beginning of this episode. This is actually only the first half of our interview with Allan Katz. Come back next week for another hour of Dad's on Books, talking with Allan Katz. In the meantime, happy reading.